Today in Vermont, a federal judge will hold a hearing to try to determine whether the release of Mohsen Madawi, the Columbia University student arrested earlier this month at his citizenship interview. Ahead of the hearing, Vermont Democrats blasted Madawi's detention yesterday.
He was invited to his very last stage in achieving citizenship. He had gone through the entire process. It was the very last meeting he was supposed to have. But it was a trap. This is what our government is doing in our name.
It goes without saying that if the Trump administration has any shred of justice in it, Madawi must be released immediately.
Joining us right now is George Washington law professor and Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley. Jonathan, good morning to you.
Thank you. Good morning.
It's good to have you. So what that first speaker, what she was talking about was apparently this Palestinian student leader from Columbia was just steps away from his final citizenship interview when he was arrested. What is it that he apparently, according to the government, did wrong?
Well, there's a lot we still don't know. The government insists that he was one of the organizers of these protests. Right. And those protests did involve criminal acts. They did involve occupations. And the question is, was he truly directly involved in some of those actions? Now, for the free speech community, these cases raise troubling issues. You are allowed to engage in free speech and First Amendment activities in the United States. That's one of the draws of coming to the United States. And the question, though, is whether this person committed conduct that was unlawful. Originally, the administration made clear that they believed that this person and others were involved in unlawful conduct. But there was a change in the government's position in the Khalil case and in this case. They're now sort of going for the three-point shot. They're saying, you know, we have a legal basis to exclude people that we believe are undermining national security under this statutory provision. It is a very forgiving provision. It says that Marco Rubio just has to have a reasonable basis to believe this. And they're saying to these courts, you are not allowed to get involved in foreign relations and question his judgment on these cases.
Indeed. And meanwhile, as that's going on up in Vermont, the Department of Homeland Security, the deadline for Harvard, another Ivy League school, to provide information on foreign student visa holders, their illegal and violent activities. Apparently, the administration is saying, OK, Harvard, tell us about these people. And Harvard won't release anything, it doesn't sound like.
Yeah, Harvard is picking a very rough hill to fight on this one. You don't have a guarantee to federal funding and grants. The government here is seeking information that they believe is relevant to determining if some people in this country may have violated their conditions for visas or are a danger to the country. That's a pretty strong basis for the government. Now, Harvard has other complaints about the Trump administration's position in a letter that went out. Some of those may have merit, but on this one, they're going to find it more difficult sledding to withhold information from the government while saying you need to still give us all that money.
Sure. So what do you think is going to happen?
I think that in many of these cases, these universities are going to win part of this and lose part of this. The letter that went out by the administration was described in one media by one media outlet as being issued by mistake. The White House then sort of went back. I wish that letter had gone through one more draft to remove one of those lines. But, you know, there is an interesting fight going on where universities are saying you are intruding upon free speech and academic freedom. I think that the administration has a strong hand on many of these grants. It is not a right to receive federal funding. And the administration does have discretion on many of these issues.
And, you know, final question, Jonathan. Yesterday, the president was in Michigan talking about the first 100 days. During the first 100 days, the administration, Department of Justice, other branches of his government have used novel parts of the law to try to essentially cause change that we haven't seen in a generation or two. And if you had to give a grade for how he's using the application of those novel approaches, what would you say?
It's too early to tell whether he will prevail, but he learned something in his first term, that presidents need to move fast and far in the first 2 years of their term before the midterms. And he's doing that. Yes, he's in court, but that's going to bring greater finality. He'll lose some, he'll win some, but in the end, he'll have greater finality as to what his authority is, particularly on issues like deportation, where he's trying to move millions of cases.
And he'll be able to say, hey, look, the court agrees with me on this here thing right there, and then that's what we're going to do. Jonathan, thank you very much for joining us on this Wednesday.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.